So guys, thanks for doing this. Let's talk a little bit about the venue that we're in right now. I know we're in the middle of coronavirus crisis now. We've had another outbreak and a lot more coming in the last 4 days. But what's the history of the Core Studio? How did this all get started here?
So basically, long story short, I met Josh at Retro Game Bar, which is this bar that we used to frequent where they have, they have drinks and video games. And
it's
Josh
a cool place.
It's still a cool place.
The owners are really good guys, I think. A lot of us hang out there sometimes. It was kind of a go-to place for a lot of the, gaming esports community in the English-speaking esports community. And
there's been a couple of these out here in Seoul. Yeah. I think actually I met you first at was it Dart Stream?
Yeah, it was right? Dart Stream. Is also known as Arcade Stream. Yeah.
And so there's a couple of these little underground places that you can go to where people have get-togethers. It's especially useful for fighting games since online play is not that good. That's something I want to talk about a little bit later on with your video.
Sure.
But Retro Game Bar became kind of the hub to go to drink and then to have events. And you guys were hosting stuff down there, and it started getting pretty big, right?
Yeah, so we started with when Smash Ultimate came out, the current iteration of Smash Bros. On the Switch. Previously in Korea, the other Smash games were not really a factor. Like Nintendo, it's a long story, but going back to the early Nintendo releases, there was like boycotts on importing Japanese things in Korea at that time. And then as those were kind of lifted, even still, Nintendo wasn't that popular in Korea. And consoles, obviously PC gaming's huge here. So Smash 4 didn't even come out in Korea. And then when Ultimate came out, myself and Thomas, good friend of ours, and even actually Wolf, we would go to RGB and play Smash together sometimes. And one night the owner was like, you guys should just do a tournament. And I had organized tournaments for other games in the past. I'd been to Smash tournaments for older versions of the game. So I said, let's do it. And we threw it together in 6 days. We only had like a handful of people turn up. And then the next one we did, like 2 weeks later, we had like 60 people. And RGB's tiny. 60 people in RGB was pretty insane. And we just kind of grew from there and started doing more events, and then started doing a Tuesday fight night, linking up with Gerald, and then we started doing Tekken events, and now we have a venue out of need, really. We had trouble going to all these different places, and it's always hard. You're moving equipment across the city. You're trying to set up, and they're like, you have an hour to set up, and you're like, we have a stream and 20 gaming setups, and it's just hard. So we were like, we need our own place. And
basically, I was at a Dunkin' Donuts, just sitting there, and I was like, man, like I've always wanted to have a place for fighting games, and I always went to Arcade Stream, Dart Stream that we were talking about and stuff. And
with Drake Fang ran that, right?
Yeah, Drake Fang ran that, but now he's just working a job. He's married, he has a kid, and now he's kind of playing the life game more, but I decided to not play the life game as hard and go in on fighting games. And I called Josh, and I was like, hey man, like wouldn't it be cool if there's like a place, and you're the event organizer, how about we try this thing? And I had some money to invest, and basically it was like a many months long process, and we went through a lot. We had to look for a good location, a good price. We had to we had to make like a fire escape, which costs like a ton of money, which is just right over there. And
the regulations for opening a place where you can have all this equipment and then you can also sell alcohol is pretty complicated, right?
Yeah, even just food. We had to get licensed as an actual restaurant. There's tons of stuff involved, so we had to do all of that, and it was a process. And I think when we had our grand opening, it was basically the very weekend that the initial corona outbreak hit Korea.
Yeah, this is crazy. Like some of the worst possible luck ever, because I mean, from an outside perspective, I mean, I would go visit your guys' events that you were running.
Yeah, you've always supported us, so
no, I mean, I love coming by and having a drink and watching. Sometimes it'd be going on after my Saturday GSL cast, so I come down and check that out. And I remember even before a different venue I had recommended to you.
Yeah,
it's crazy to try to get all that equipment there.
Yeah,
and what a mess that is. And it's so much easier to have it all in one place. But you guys basically set up this venue, and it's fucking awesome, by the way.
Thank you.
But then you're hit with
literally the day we opened.
Really?
Was the day
the pandemic hit.
The first, because Corona was kind of, remember, we were all actually at Evo Japan together, and that weekend there was like whisperings of a virus.
Yeah, we all heard about it.
And we were kind of like, yeah, and then a couple weeks after that, we were supposed to have our opening here. And Friday night, we had kind of our soft opening, like we call it Friday Fight Night. We had a bunch of people came. But even that night, a bunch of people didn't come because they're like, I've heard about Corona. It's kind of happening in Korea. But still, there was like less than 100 cases nationwide. It was nobody knew what it would become. And this is way before it hit the West at all. Like, it was still just in Asia.
Yeah, I mean, so as you were saying, all three of us were in Tokyo.
Yeah.
At the last Evo. That's going to happen for a while now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember just reading on my phone, like when I'd be walking to the venue, reading about the at the time, not a pandemic, I guess an epidemic in China, and thinking, man, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But and I kind of thought maybe it was going to come here, but we were all so caught up working.
Yeah.
At Evo.
And we'd had things like this in Korea before, right? There was
MERS.
and the avian flu and stuff, and it kind of had been a thing for like a month or two. Some people get infected, they get it under control.
Yeah, even I think swine flu 10 years ago or something like that.
Yeah, H1N1.
I don't think anyone imagined this, but the Saturday we were supposed to do our first opening tournament was the day that like that cult in Daegu.
Is it Shincheonji?
Yeah, Shincheonji down in Daegu, yeah.
That one woman who like went to a buffet and infected like half the
Super
country.
spreader.
And for the listeners, there's a cult in South Korea, and that's where all the infection started.
Yeah.
Was in I think one of their big churches in Daegu.
Yeah. There's kind of what we're experiencing now is it's churches in Seoul, right? So that's kind of every time there's like a little spike, it's always like, oh, which group is it? Which group is the one causing
which
trouble this
denomination
time,
got us in trouble with?
Yeah, so like before it was like the like clubs in Itaewon, which is a district known for foreigners, and so like
like alternate lifestyles. So that became the witch hunt, right? Where it was all these people like gays and I don't know, those clubs. It became kind of a target for Koreans, like, oh, this is during a pandemic and these like deviants are going to, and now it's churches. So
it was gay people and foreign people.
Yeah.
And it was not a good time to be in South Korea during then. But now it's shifted over to religious groups again.
I mean, obviously we don't look down on those clubs in that way, but some of the religious conservative community in Korea that was their messaging, and
they
now they're the ones. Their breakout has been like 50 times worse, so it's kind of, I don't want to say it's funny because it's not funny. This whole situation sucks, but it's
it's a little bit cathartic, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Corona doesn't care. Like, this virus doesn't care, like, who you are. It's if you're a person, you can catch it. Even like some animals are getting it, right? So like,
I think cats or tigers or something like that.
Yeah, like I heard
now,
like a cat like got it in England, and like it's doing better.
Yeah,
no, it's like got mild symptoms and it's doing better now or whatever. But
tigers are gnarly, badass creatures. So like,
yeah, they would never get corona. They're corona proof.
So you guys opened the venue here. There's this outbreak. How long did it take you to build this setup that you have here? Because I know you had the property. But was it like a month or two for you guys to get all the?
Maybe.
Yeah, it was
3
a long
months?
time. It was like 3 months. It was like November is when we, I think November was the official like leasing of the place, signing it, and from that point we had to do so many things. Obviously, there's construction and buying a ton of PlayStations. Like, it's like, where do you buy 20
How many PlayStations are here?
Like 22 or something.
Yeah, it's like 22. Like we like pulled our equipment, our personal equipment, and brought it here because we're gonna be gaming here most of the time anyways. So yeah, something like 22 PlayStations, a ton of monitors. We just went to a place in Yongsan that sells
Nintendo
electronics.
Switches and like retro Dreamcast setups for. That's where
Do you get
play
a
your
deal if
NBC
you go down there and buy? How does that work?
Yeah, you can get a deal. I mean, if you're like, hey man, I'm gonna buy 20 monitors, like if they're just like, not giving you a deal, then you can just go to the next guy to buy 20 monitors. That's a big sale.
We didn't get a crazy deal, but we did get a little deal. We had a kind of a specific monitor we wanted for fighting games. Guys are picky.
Input lag is a big deal.
So but we were able to get, I think, a good deal. It worked out. But yeah, it was about a 3-month process in the end. But between when we signed the lease and when we could open, we did also both you and I took a vacation to Japan and Thailand in that time.
Oh,
so
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, all three of us did actually.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. But our friend Steven also did a lot of the construction.
Yeah, we're like, we're going
stuff.
to Thailand, Steven. Like, get this done before we get back.
Oh, he's a good friend. Like, it's crazy. Like, you have to figure out stuff like the bar. We have a bar countertop, right? Which is like this big steel thing with like, I think inside there's some wood. But like, you have to find a guy that can make that specific thing, right? And so there's like all these like little things you don't think about.
Because we went around, we talked to like a few interior designers that came with, they gave it like these amazing presentations. They have like mood boards and stuff, and they're like, it looks amazing. And then they're like, okay, and yeah, it'll cost like 120 grand, like give or take 10 grand. And you're like, oh, okay, like we'll call you back. This is like a place to play fighting games. Like we're not shilling out like 120 grand, right? So it's
right.
Yeah. But in the end, we ended up going with a friend of ours who's started and had his own businesses here in Seoul a few times. He's built like cafes, escape rooms, and things like that, and he just did it all himself and saved us a ton of money. So, but yeah, it was a process. It was stressful, and when we were ready to open, we were both really excited, and then boom. So
yeah. So, did you? I actually can't remember now. I feel like I should, but were you able to have any events here before the pandemic happened?
One Friday fight night and one Smash tournament, and both of which were like our Smash tournament, we were expecting around 100 people. And that day I woke up, I had like 40 messages on Discord, like, hey man, can't come today. My parents won't let me. Hey, I can't come.
Yeah.
And it was, we ended up around 50 or 60 people that day. And luckily no one got Corona or anything. So, but we did it and it was fun. It was a good day. People liked the venue. But after that, we couldn't do anything for 4 months probably.
Yeah, at that point when COVID first broke out in Korea was like the second worst country to be in for coronavirus, because it was China had the most cases, and then it was Korea that like easily had.
Japan wasn't reporting theirs either.
Yeah,
so
yeah. But there were like countries that were just kind of like a little bit behind. Oh, well, that was when Japan was having the Olympics, and there was that whole thing.
Well, there was also
like,
the cruise ship that came, right?
Yeah.
That got stuck there shortly after.
Yeah, that's right. And so like it was kind of like Korea was like one of the worst places, and this is during that time. I think Kevin Kim, known as Burnout, he's this OG Street Fighter fighting game player. He does a lot of stream work, and he was supposed to come, I think, in February, but basically he was in Australia at the time. He had set up his visa, his living arrangements, everything in Korea, and basically he saw the news and he's like, oh, maybe I should just chill out here in Australia until this COVID stuff clears. Because even at that time, people were still like, oh, maybe it might clear. Maybe it's just like a thing for this month, or maybe like it's like a spring
People were
thing.
saying, oh, by May, by the summer, the heat
I
will
even
kill
said that
it.
in a podcast I was reporting on this. I had seen so many people say in the news this will go away by the summer.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, that if they're saying that, it must be true.
It shows how much trust we just put in
just,
what the general populace says and believes. We're like,
Yeah.
if everyone says that, it must be true.
Yeah. I'm like, I heard that from other people, so obviously that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think people just want to be optimistic, but like, it's just like now we're in the summer. We're almost done with summer, and it's now every country's having their spikes. Like even like Japan, like they've been having their spikes, and pretty much everyone's having these second waves. Because the thing is, everyone did the quarantining thing. They were like really serious, like let's just like all come together and try to get rid of this thing, and it worked. The cases all went down in like pretty much everywhere, and
Except
then
America.
I think in America it went down for a little bit.
Okay.
But like it was still a lot. It went down, but like everything came back up. Like, and now there's like, I think Spain just had like another like resurgence. So everyone's getting these spikes, and I think the way forward basically until like a vaccine comes out that people are willing to use and people are willing to administer to everybody. Until then, we're gonna have this thing where we're just like every once in a while there's gonna be spikes, and then can the people like push down that spike, and when it does come up,
and can you keep, like, Korea's kept, even with all these spikes, Korea's kept the mortality rate extremely low. So that is one thing. Like, I think still in Korea less than 300 people have died.
It's been very low.
So that's another factor too, right? Like, you have some countries where, to me, the cases is one thing, but how many people are actually dying from this? And yeah, it is unfortunate that in some countries it is high, but Korea's been doing pretty good at not letting people die, basically. So
Yeah, there's like there's like healthcare. Every country has different healthcare systems and stuff like that. So that's another big factor. And yeah, I mean, but also like in Korea, you have like the contact tracing system, which is like really effective. But at the same time, like in other countries, like in the States, it would be like, wow, that's that's an invasion of privacy. Like big
Yeah,
time.
I mean, it'd basically be unconstitutional
Yeah.
in the U.S. to do. But this seems to be a problem that's happening in all the places where, I mean, this is kind of fucked up to say, but privacy is more valued in certain ways. But the result is that because they can trace people and exactly, the government knows exactly where you've been, they can
For sure,
actually
yeah.
put together everything and then walk it back and find out who's been infected. It seems like those places have been more successful in holding off,
Yeah, I mean,
at least staving the pandemic.
yeah, I understand. It is a scary thing that like the government like has all your information, but I mean, the truth is, if you have a phone that's made after 2003, you're on the grid, right?
Yeah.
Like, they know they're gonna know, where you are, and
that's the
like,
thing. People are saying this is an invasion of privacy, but your privacy's already been invaded. They're just, when they do things like this, they're just letting you know that it has.
Yeah.
They're just kind of like, okay, like there's this veil of, oh, we don't know this information.
Yeah.
But now when they say, oh, this person has tested positive for COVID, they were within 300 meters of you, and you get a text message saying that, it's like very clear that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and
that's the
like,
only difference.
Yeah,
to
and
me.
like they all have like everyone has your information. So it's just the plausible deniability is gone at one point, right?
So how much, I don't mean to be crude, how much financial destruction has this caused you guys down here compared to what your original,
Oh, man.
I mean, your original
we're gonna
business
need another
model.
drink if we're
Oh
gonna-
man, yeah.
I mean, you guys, if I can just be candid here, I think that FGC has been really fractured in Korea for a long time, and you, with the events you were running, Josh, things seem to be all coming together for the first time I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
With fighting game
Oh,
stuff,
yeah.
everything was again. I knew all these different groups of people that would be in different cliques, I guess you could say, that wouldn't talk to each other in the FGC, or there'd be some places that would host certain things, but other people weren't allowed. And you kind of came in there and started really getting this massive fighting game get together. And it seems like we got to the peak of that with the Core Studios. And obviously, there's content that's made out of here, like what we're doing now. But, the business model was essentially that you guys would have people come here and compete and hang out, and they would spend money and, eat food here and drink at the
Right.
bar. And it was, although it's a community-driven thing, it's also somewhat of a business venture. So we've been here for months now, the Core Studios. You guys have had ups and downs, just like all other businesses have, based off of the spikes of cases of COVID. What is this like for you guys trying to run this? I mean, and how difficult is it?
It's a bit like, so one thing about Korea for people listening or watching is there's never been a hard shutdown here, right? So cafes, bars have basically remained open. So technically we're a cafe or a restaurant. We could open. The problem is our bread and butter is special events. And we don't want to try to gather like 60, 70, 80, 90 people in a room on one day. We want to play it safe. So for 3-4 months, we did nothing. And then we started with a couple like really, really small invite-only events. And then as cases really disappeared, we started saying, okay, we're open Friday, Saturday. It's not a tournament or anything, but we're just open. You can come play. But we've actually, a few times, we only started doing that, I think, in July, maybe. And a few times we actually turned people away because we were at our limit, basically. So we said, it's a shitty thing to do. Someone comes here, they're excited to play, and you're like, hey, we're full, try coming back in a couple hours, but we have like a COVID limit. And we did things like Gerald was saying, the contact tracing, the QR, we scan QR codes at the door, and it sends, if that person ends up testing positive, the government can see everywhere they've been. They can see everyone else who was here and immediately contact them and test them. We took people's temperatures. Everyone had to wear a mask, and we enforced that. Actually, a few people, I made them go buy masks and come back. And that we did things like that, and we were doing events for a few weeks, and it was starting to go really well. Actually, the past couple of weeks, we'd been really busy. Tons of new communities that we didn't even really know existed in Korea in those numbers. Like guys coming out and saying, man, our game has needed a home for a long time.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Games that if you talk to like even Korean FGC guys, like, oh, nobody plays that game in Korea. And then like 20 guys show up to play whatever, Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle, or, you know, and you're like, this is amazing. And then just this last week, this news comes out, so we're gonna have to close again. It's really, I think, frustrating for everyone. This situation, I mean, we run a fighting game venue. I don't want to complain too much because there's people who are being affected worse than this. There's people who have lost loved ones, right? But it's just taking a toll on everyone, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's I think it's the uncertainty that's the hardest thing about this, right? So, you know, like Josh said, once we started opening up a little bit, because the cases were really low and things were under control, there were a lot of people that were coming. It was kind of like it was surprising, and it was a pleasant surprise. There are more people than we thought coming to the venue, and I think almost every week it was like to the point where we had to we were pretty much at the max, or we had to refuse people. So it's so you have some good luck there, and then this happens, but who knows, like in a week maybe this thing will go down again. We don't know, but that's the most difficult thing, is the uncertainty. So at the beginning, the thing that really hurt us, we had all these sponsors lined up. Obviously we had Tekken World Tour, we had the big Master TWT event. We had all these things lined up, and just the day-to-day business here, what Corey Studios originally was video production company. We had clients coming from abroad to do like Netflix shows and stuff like that. Everything got canceled during that time. So right now we're kind of like almost like a rebuilding phase, and even rebuilding, it's like we're just taking what we can get in those pockets of time when things are going okay. We can try to recover from that. But every week that we can't open, and this is something like on social media, I think a lot of people they don't see as clearly, is obviously like in the US it's kind of crazy right now because it's very polarized, but there will be people running events, and they will be criticized for opening during with all these crazy numbers, and a lot of it is rightfully so, right? I mean, there's I don't know the exact numbers and cases of every region, but I've seen some of the numbers in some of these places, and it's just it's insane, right? Even Korea at its peak would be like a dream number in some other regions, right? But yeah, some of these places, I mean, they're way bigger than ours, and I know they're paying way more rent because their location is they have some prime locations, right? And every weekend they can't do anything. That's a huge opportunity cost, but it's not just the opportunity cost. It's the fact that you're also paying out money every month, right? There's the rent that you have to pay, and so it's like
salaries.
Yeah, it's like you're like poisoned. In fighting games, there's a poison mechanic where you're constantly losing life, right? It's like if you're not doing anything, it's constantly going down. It's not like, oh, I didn't make money this time. It's like I didn't make money and I have to pay upkeep too. So
it almost seems like when the panic started with the pandemic, there was the first part that everybody identified, which is obviously the disease that is spreading and can kill you or make you very ill, or you can make somebody else sick. But then I think what was unappreciated at the start of this was the fact that economically this is going to devastate everything.
Yeah, and I've seen people bring that up and get blown up for it. But I mean, this is a real thing. It's and I agree, there are states in America, and even now, in Korea, we had a couple hundred cases, and we're not going to open because of that, right?
Right.
A couple hundred cases in a country of 55 million people. So I think we are being cautious, and we did close for 4 months straight.
You guys have not been forced to shut down. You've elected to not be open at periods of time. Just to clarify for people listening, it's not like you're saying we want to open up and the government won't let us. That's not the situation.
Every other cafe in the country, there's more Starbucks in Korea than anywhere in the world. Seoul has more Starbucks than any city in the world. I've read that. That might not be true, but whatever. No,
I would believe that just walking around here.
But they're all open. They've never closed, and we're choosing to close. But there are states in America that have it really bad. I read that if Florida was a country, they'd be 4th in the world for Corona. I don't know if that's true, but if so, it's crazy.
Yeah, I know Florida's up there. California's up there.
So
Yeah.
these places opening a venue is kind of crazy. But I also, when people say things like that, like, oh, if these people are opening these venues, they should be banned from the FGC. I've seen tweets like that, and it's like, there has to be a degree of empathy there. These people are community guys, probably. Like, owning an FGC venue isn't a moneymaker. Let's just be honest. And if that's what you do, it's because you love it. You're probably a member of this community. And if you can't open right now, you're probably losing tons of money, especially if you're in a big American city and you have staff. And yeah, maybe you shouldn't be opening, but it's also like when people just flippantly say like, just stay closed. It's
it's like, okay, like, that's, fair enough, but like who's going to pay for the rent for the venue that you went to like all the time? Like it's not like they're like, oh man, you guys should stay closed. And when they do close, it's not like they're like, oh, I'm going to donate some money to help these guys with the rent. Like, you never see like a tweet like that. Like nobody ever says that, right? So it is a tricky situation, and I don't want to like, you don't want to be like completely, not understanding of
probably in the States. I don't think anyone should be doing events in
Yeah,
the States
yeah.
right now.
I
I'll just
agree
say
with
that. But I do wish, it seems like some people don't have much empathy in that regard.
Well, I think a lot of people. First of all, I would guess that a lot of the people that are hypercritical of that haven't had a job or a business in the same way.
Yeah.
Really, I do. It's on some level, it seems like this pandemic is one of the biggest lessons for everybody about what economics actually is. Like, if you have a business and you have to keep, let's say the place has to continue to be rented to stay open. If you're not, here, let's park for a second. You guys can just, I just want to pause for a second. You guys are like sneaking around the set.
Yeah.
You can just walk.
Just go.
It's okay for people to be here. Just go
people here. Yeah.
Go get the beer. Go adjust it. It's so distracting if you guys are like trying to be ninjas around. Yeah.
This one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just walk up, take it,
Yeah.
go fill it up, put it back. No one's gonna the Reddit threads will not blow up going, who's that guy who got the cup? Yeah.
No,
I hope they do.
Yeah.
That's okay. Let's get your beer then.
Yeah. Yeah. Last time when I kept getting your drinks, I just was walking behind you.
Yeah, that's all you gotta do is then you just put it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it
makes it real and it's
where people work.
Where
and,
people.
Yeah. I'm just gonna start getting costumes and walking behind Nick when you're. I'm gonna get like a Blanca costume. And just like walk. You're like, is there a Blanca that lives in Corée? Like,
we can even keep this running. This is fine. But what I was saying is, like as far as economics goes, like if you have a venue that's open or a bar or a cafe or anywhere, you have to pay rent.
right.
Even when you're not making any money off of it.
Yeah.
And then if that closes because you don't have any money, you're not gonna have money to open up another business. And then if you don't have money to do that, we're just going to see everything start to crumble everywhere in a row.
What if you employ like 5 people? And, like, what if you employ a couple people full time and that's how those people support their families? And then I mean, like you said, it's a lesson in economics. This is literally the basics of economics. Like, we exchange money for goods and services and that keeps people alive. Like, it's.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you just have to understand that. So, like, we're not like, this is not the Red Bull Corée Studios, sponsored by a company with infinite money.
Not yet.
Where it's like,
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet.
If you do have a company with infinite money, we're here.
Yeah. So like, infinite money companies, like, gigantic corporations, they can weather the storm for like forever. They can just like be like, they're just like this huge like monster with all this armor, and it can like just take so much damage. Like it's insane, right? But like for us, it's like a month, a weekend where we have to close, a month, a couple of months. That's like, oh shit, like we're gonna die now. Like we can't take any more damage, right? So it's and so I think in a certain sense, like, and I know people have talked about this, like obviously like the big companies who do have a lot more money, they can survive this much easier, right? So and obviously I know that people are getting laid off and stuff. It affects everybody, but like it's another one of those things where like we're not we're like a mom and pop store, right? We're not we have a limit, right? So that said, we're doing okay. I mean, I'm obviously people watching my channel have noticed like a ton of ads at the end of the video. They're sponsored videos, right? But last year I was getting.
Are you talking
offers.
about your YouTube videos?
My YouTube channel, yeah. So like last year I had a lot of these sponsor offers, and I just didn't take them because I didn't really feel the need or anything at that time. But definitely,
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you were reluctant to because being FGC, it might have made the videos feel less pure or anything like that?
No. It's it's one of those things where I had never done like a sponsored video or anything like that. So like it was like there are these offers, and they're not like, I'm not against like sponsored videos. Like I think it's the biggest thing for me was deadlines. So that's the thing is like I'm famous for taking way too long in my videos and people getting pissed off at me because like, oh man, that was an awesome video. We'll see you next year. Like snide comments like every single video. Like so that's how I've always made my videos. But the thing about like having a sponsor is like you have to like you have to like let them know when you're gonna release the video. So like there's like they call them integrations, right? And you have to have them within a certain time frame. And so I had to kind of rethink how I worked on these videos. Like a lot of ideas that I have, sometimes I just sit on them for a long time. It's like I'll talk about a video and it won't be out for a year. Like this happened multiple times. Like people in the FGC know, like I'll just talk about this topic to people and they'll just be like, man, Gerald never made that video like that he was talking about. It's like, but then a year later, here it is, right? So, when you're doing sponsored content, you have to kind of like readjust your schedule and stuff like that. And what
is a deadline like for the sponsored content? Like they reach out to you, they say, Core Gaming, we love what you do. We need this in like 2 months. Video?
I mean, I just make the date with them, so it's not like, so I have an agreed upon date, right? But that is something that like was kind of weird to me like before, just even having like ample time, right? So like, and it's not, I've never really been like rushed to the point where I'm hurting the quality of the video with these sponsors. I just have to like be cognizant of the deadline. And yeah,
I think a lot of the times it's been like, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you work with a brand directly, it can, maybe they're more flexible, or they really show an interest in the channel, they have more control. But if you're working, usually a lot of these ads and stuff are through agencies, and they're just a middleman, and they're basically charged with getting X number of views on this ad, and they're just messaging content creators, YouTubers, and they don't have as much maybe leeway or care, really. They're just looking at your raw channel numbers. Whereas if a brand contacts you directly, they might actually really just like what you do and want to be a part of it.
Yeah, for sure. Every brand's kind of different with how they approach the sponsoring my videos. So some you're kind of dealing with somebody that's not really that some of these people like they've never really watched one of my videos. You can tell just by the interactions and stuff. But generally, if I think like the thing that they have is is something that can be useful, or something that I use, like the ExpressVPN thing that I did, like that was like something that I was already using for a long time, right? So if ExpressVPN approaches me and it's like you want to do this ad or whatever, obviously that's going to be like kind of a no-brainer, right? So and like it's one of those things where you're fighting with like you want to I guess to use I don't want to say like losing your soul, but when you do certain everyone has their limits of what they're going to do, right? Totally when it comes to like advertising, right?
Or like what are you comfortable with? Like how much can you pimp this thing out?
Yeah, like everyone, I mean you know this, right?
Sure,
I mean there's
of course.
like, and it's there's just a line. Everyone has it, right? I mean, it's like, like, are you like, there's like on one end you have like this useful product, like a very useful product that's very relevant and you're using it, right? And then on the other end you have like these like shady like supplement pills or something, right? That you're like, is this going to be like snake oil or like, and so like there's everything in between. So you just kind of have to find the right balance, and then you want to do it in a way that doesn't sacrifice the quality of your content, right? So
You don't want to have like a 5-minute ad at the beginning of one of your videos.
yeah, so that's another big thing, right?
I've seen some of those videos where
Yeah, they're like, hey guys, here's an ad, and then you finish it, and they have another one, and you're like, oh, I'm not ever gonna get to see this video, am I? Like,
Yeah, so I mean, it's not like, it's like, oh, I'm being defiant of, like, ads or money or anything like that. It's just figuring that out and where you stand and what you're willing to do. That I think it's kind of a process. It takes some time, right?
I think. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say. I mean, if you weren't making content like that on YouTube, would a venue like this be impossible to sustain?
Yeah. So I guess these days, so I stream now, and I'll just be completely honest. I've said this on my stream, but like one of the reasons I'm streaming is to help save this venue, help save this situation. So, I mean, streaming, like, we talked about this, I think, last year. Like, we were both, we were like,
no, please, I'm sorry, go ahead. I don't mean to run over you.
Yeah, we were both, like, skeptical of streaming, like, both of us.
Yeah,
like,
we both came from different obscure backgrounds. Like, I know streaming is kind of the more common thing, I think, to do if you're in gaming, like, no matter what you're going to be streaming, but you were making YouTube content. I do freelance casting now only in Korea because I can't leave, but I was doing stuff overseas too. And we'd have nights where we would talk about this and say, like, are we supposed to be streaming?
Yeah, it's like, it's kind of weird.
It's
like,
kinda,
people are watching you game, and then you have to, like, you
yeah,
can't lose so much.
Yeah, they're the same thing. I thought they're going to watch me play, and I don't know if I'm worth watching, and that's not really my angle. I want to talk about the game and analyze it, and you were in a similar position as well.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, because I knew how skeptical you were about streaming, to the point where, like, I mean, I know a lot of our friends were like, come on, like, this is like a.
Yeah, it's been an inside joke in our friend group for a long time, where guys were telling you to stream.
Yeah, and I'm like, why would I stream? I don't get it.
Like, I don't need to stream. But then. Your stream is awesome. I watch it all the time, and like, it's weird to watch a stream of someone you know.
Hopefully, you didn't watch it today, man, because that was a fucking disaster, man. I lost so many games today. But.
Yeah, watching a stream of someone you know is weird.
Is it?
For me, sometimes it is because
when I watch Dan stream, I'm like,
well, that's
there
just
he
funny.
is.
That's funny for a different reason. But yeah, it's for me. I watch Gerald stream every day too, and I always have both your streams on whenever you're on, and it's just funny because I talk to both of you almost every day.
Yeah.
And then to watch you interact with the public like that on your stream, for me it's funny, and I'll always send Gerald like little troll messages.
Oh man.
And for the first little while he didn't know it was me, and I could tell a couple of them, he's like, this guy's a jackass.
This guy's kind of weird. Like,
Wait, what were you sending him? Like,
I can't even remember.
Yeah, he would say like,
just like when he'd lose a game,
I'd like criticize my play or something,
yeah,
like say my character's OP or something, and then like what's funny is like when I found out it was Josh, like he went by the name like J to the Lou or something. I actually should have known because it wasn't like a hidden name or anything. But when he started doing that, I had the opposite problem where I knew who it was, so I would start talking shit to this one like
and
viewer
guys on the stream would be like, dude, Gerald's going in on this guy.
But it is a weird thing when you have a chat room that you're interacting with, right? Like while you're trying to concentrate on something else. I thought, for me, because I do casting for events, and chat can be very mean, but they're never being mean at you. They're just saying things. I mean, if you're commentating, you're not sitting there reading the chat unless you're probably not going to have your job for very long, because you shouldn't be reading chat and trying to cast a game. But so I think for me, I was reluctant to stream a little bit just out of, I guess it felt alien to me to be engaging with a chat room. But now, to be honest, I love streaming.
Well, and
I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I get I don't stream, and if I did stream, no one would watch. But when I get the hesitance to, I guess, if you are known, you have a following, and then you stream, sometimes you just want to play games. That's like how you unwind, right? Like I think everyone around this table, we actually love games. That's why we're doing what we do. And sometimes you just want to play games to unwind. And I get sometimes thinking about playing that game while streaming, it might not seem relaxing. But I think that's one of the things I've heard you say is that you actually still find it enjoyable and helps you.
I think I had to rewire my brain a little bit. And then, for StarCraft, when I was much younger, I used to have a lot of anxiety conditions in tournaments. I would get very nervous. And I think, honestly, just playing with everybody watching, even if I played terribly, it's like, well,
Yeah.
It's out there now. I guess I wasn't as nervous to stream as I thought I would be, but I think it's actually almost better for me if I'm going to be practicing and training hard to keep myself on point and kind of be out there doing that. I mean, at least I'm mostly streaming StarCraft 1, but I found it useful for me.
Well, I mean, that's another reason that I stream is to practice my live speaking, my public speaking, I guess. It's, I'm a VOD guy, right? I do YouTube, and I spend like a long time writing the words I'm going to say. And then when I record myself, I record the same line like 3 or 4 times. Sometimes I'll just re-record a line like 10 times to get the right cadence or whatever, right? And then when you're thrown into a live broadcast, all the rules are different, right? It's like if you screw up something or say something or stutter, it's like that's it. Like that happened, and you can't take that back ever. So streaming has also helped me try to practice, work on that. And of course, I do want to try to get into commentary and stuff. It's one of the reasons why I made a video about it. It was kind of also research for myself to practice like speaking live, because man, when I watch myself in these like old interviews I did with people, it just looks like dog shit. I'm just like, man,
it's hard to watch your old stuff too.
Yeah.
It's hard to watch yourself, but it's even harder to watch yourself from like 5 years ago or.
Yeah, I don't commentate. Gerald's actually been commentating a lot recently for some of the little show matches and stuff we've been doing here, and I think he's really good at it. I have no aspirations to do any of that, but we needed some English commentary for some Smash events we did, so I've hopped on the mic a couple times.
I saw that. I've watched that.
I go back and watch it, and I'm just like, oh, like I don't know how you guys just do it day in, day out, and I guess maybe it's easier because you're actually good at it, but
I think you were pretty good. I mean, like, I think I was crappy.
I think it's horrifying to watch yourself.
Yeah.
Like this podcast, I have a hard time watching it. Like just looking at myself, like when I come on camera, I'm like, oh, it's fucking tasteless. I can't stand that guy. But I think the more you do it, the more you realize, okay, it's fine. That's what I look like. That's what I sound like. But yeah, especially when you start, it's.
Yeah, I was commentating with a friend here, and he's also not a professional commentator, but he does Smash really well, and we were just having fun shooting the shit, and we got really into it the one day, and I got like 10 messages after from different people like, dude, that was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And then I went back and rewatched it, and we had made like a bunch of jokes that I was like, I don't know if I don't want that on the internet forever. Like it is funny. Like maybe I got a little carried away, and I realized like you and Dan are both super funny guys, and there's probably like you commentate so many times, and to not step over that line ever, like for me that's a skill. Like that. That would be hard for me to do.
I think we step over the line a decent amount, but we're in a weird spot at GSL because I think they just kind of left us alone, and I don't think we're that heavily monitored.
Yeah.
Like they just see that all the feedback's very good, and we're probably doing the best that the global department can have. So we've been left alone, but they're actually doing a mini documentary on us. And they're like looking up all these old clips, and like they're like, so like, what was this joke about? And it's like me talking about like an old guy taking Viagra, and I'm like, like they're asking me these questions. And I'm thinking like, you should have just fired me like years ago. But I think if you're making something that's funny and people are liking it, even if you overstep, it's okay.
You get a bit of leeway.
Yeah, I mean, if being funny.
If you're just being an edgelord or you're just making it uncomfortable, I think it's a fast track to get booted, but.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that for a second then, because I feel like this is my most challenging podcast because we're all friends. We all know each other really well. We can talk about anything, but you guys have been running events out of here. Now, not big gatherings.
No.
Not big get-togethers, but you've been streaming small tournaments out of here. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And then I'm happy to go back onto casting, but just... To plug that for you guys.
Yeah, that's more, I guess, Josh.
Well, we haven't done too much. We started doing, we were working with these guys, Hitbox. They make fighting game controllers, and they're really good guys. They're community guys, and they wanted to partner with us to, it was really cool of them. Basically, they said we want to help keep you guys open, basically.
Yeah.
If I'm speaking
Yeah.
as frankly as possible. So we planned this event series. So we're doing these kind of mini 1 day. They're kind of similar to the inspiration was, I am from StarCraft. I've organized StarCraft tournaments back in Canada, and one of the inspirations was Home Story Cup a little bit for how we do these kind of 1 day events. And the first one was we did for Smash, which is not a big game out here, but the idea was to ramp up. We're doing 5 games, Smash, then Soul Calibur, which was supposed to be this weekend. I think we're going to be postponing it due to recent events. And Korea has some really good Soul Calibur players. And then it kind of ramps up to Grand Blue, which is a popular game in Korea, and then Street Fighter. Obviously, Korea has some Street Fighter legends.
And when are these events normally on?
They were going to be basically on every Sunday. Right now, everything's in flux with the recent situation. So we're going to play it by ear, but we'll definitely be... And then, updating everyone.
So these tournaments also, I think people should know that they're invitational tournaments, right? So it's not like they're not like open tournaments where you have 60 people in a room or anything. So when Josh is talking about we might have to postpone and stuff, that's because Korea might be going to level 3 alert for coronavirus. Which
I hope not, man. But
apparently it's I think level 2 is 50 people. Gatherings, that's the limit, and then level 3 is 10 people gatherings, and if our invitational had less people and we had a smaller staff, then 10 might be manageable, but
for the Soul Calibur thing, we were inviting 10 people, but then we have a stream engineer, we have commentators,
right?
So we're at 15. So and we just also some of those guys were coming from other places in the country, and
you have to travel. Yeah.
We talked to them, and they're we don't really want to ride the bus and stuff, so we're gonna postpone it, and luckily all of our sponsors have been super supportive about that and stuff. So the biggest invitation I think we have is for 16 people, which is Tekken. We've been starting to do show matches here on Fridays and Saturdays, just first to 10s with guys in Street Fighter.
Yeah, 2 people.
Gear.
Yeah.
And it's been really hype. Gerald's been commentating a lot of those. You did Tekken and Street Fighter.
Yeah.
And Grand Blue.
And Grand Blue, yeah. So those are basically the 3 games that I feel comfortable commentating. Obviously, a big part of my commentary video I did is, the idea of how much do you have to know to commentate a game, right? And that kind of goes. I think that's different for depending on the community, right? And what game you're doing, right? So I feel I don't know for Tekken, maybe it's because I don't have a Tekken background, but I feel I really need to be grinding this game to talk about it more confidently, but that's a game that I had been playing on and off, but in recent streams I just went ham, and I've been ranking up a lot, and I got to ranks that I never ever been to, and I'm sorry, and I actually am learning more about the game, so I realized oh man, that character, now I know why everyone hates that character.
He's getting to the point where he's raging about Leroy and that's how you know you're a real Tekken player.
I was I knew Fakumram, everyone hates that character because that's kind of the OP character right now in Tekken. I think a lot of people might not know watching this, but Tekken right now, the 2 recent DLC characters have had insane controversy because it just flipped the balance of the game in a crazy way, to the point where you have these big tournaments where all these people are playing these characters, right? In the top 8 at EVO
this
Japan.
happened in EVO Tokyo, right?
Yeah, so
where
that was
everybody
the first.
was Leroy.
Yeah, it was Leroy Japan.
6 of the top 8, was it?
Yeah, it was 6 of the top 8, and
Leroy.
Yeah, and he was so overpowered. But then they nerfed him, but he's still good. And then Fakumram came out, and he's this Thai boxer character.
He looks like Sagat, right?
He kind of looks like Sagat. Yeah. There are some rumors that they just took the Sagat model from Tekken Cross Street Fighter that they're supposedly working on, and just rewired him to be a new character.
Very much like Sagat.
Yeah,
I think he looks badass. He's kind of a slightly more evil version of Sagat.
Yeah, he has a face tattoo, and he's these characters are badass. I love Leroy's design. I love Fakumram's design. I was so hyped when those characters were announced. But right. So right now Fakumram, he's kind of he's actually soft banned in Korea. So whenever there's a tournament that's not big stakes, the top players, they've kind of all banded together to be like, all right, let's just not play this character and like let's just play our original like mains. But then obviously when there's like tens of thousands of dollars on the line, you know, everyone understands like, okay, let's just play to win, right?
Yeah, it's crazy when you see like you look at these top tournaments, like these huge names in Tekken that are all known for different characters, like Knees playing him, Ulsan, who's really famous for Kazumi and Bob, and Ulsan even at Evo Japan when everyone was playing Leroy, he got I think 4th or 5th with Bob and Kazumi. Like he didn't give in.
Yeah.
And everyone was kind of cheering for him. Like that was one of the storylines. And then he's even playing Falcon Ram lately in these big money tournaments. JDCR just won an online tournament with Falcon Ram last night.
Yeah.
And it's like these are guys that are all famous for playing other characters. They're all playing Falcon Ram.
Yeah. It's like to the point where it's like if you know anything about the game, you know that these characters, if you want to win, you got to use these characters. And so yeah.
I have a question. Is there, this is maybe a little bit of a conspiracy theory, but this happens in all games where there's a downloadable character and new character, that the character will never come out to be bad. Right?
Yeah.
And some would argue that that's there to increase sales in a malicious way, or is this them being generous with balancing it because you can't release a piece of shit character?
So you can't really know for sure, right? Unless you're like deep in the company and you know what the business executives are doing. But I guess historically, like Tekken has been pretty good about it, like except Akuma. Akuma was like really busted when he first came out, but then I think that's.
But I think Akuma was hard to balance. I mean, just the way it was designed,
exactly.
I feel like that was quite challenging.
Akuma's just good in every game.
Well, but also like you're putting a 2D character in a 3D game, and Akuma he's like a character with like meter. He has like an FADC system. He has like Street Fighter 4 mechanics in like Tekken, which never had anything like that.
Fireballs and
it's like this. They like somehow fit this like really radically different character into this game, and people just didn't like jumping, right? That's not really a thing in Tekken, but Akuma has jumping as a thing. Like suddenly there's like a new route to get hit by your opponent because he can just jump like a Street Fighter character. And so like when he first came out, he was like really busted to the point where a well-known Street Fighter player, Punko, he was like winning tournaments left and right, and he never played Tekken. He's never known to play
winning
Tekken.
Tournaments without using sidestep.
Yeah,
once.
he was like he's just like this playing this 2D character in a 2D way, and he would apologize like on Twitter, like when he won, like, and he never apologizes. Like this is like something that never happens. So there was kind of that, but then for a while, like Tekken was famous for like being very well balanced. I think one of the Tekken World Tours was won by Rangchu, who basically played like bottom tier character, the bear. Kuma,
yeah,
right?
Kuma, yeah,
or he played Panda. I'm sorry, Panda, but they're similar characters. But he played Panda, which is I think they're pretty much the same, except like they have a couple differences. He won the Tekken World Tour with that character during a time when everybody was like, "This is bottom tier." If you look at all the tier lists, he was bottom tier.
Yeah,
so
it got nerfed right after, still, right?
Yeah, then they nerfed him afterwards. But I mean, that's what are you gonna do with games that get patched all the time? But Tekken was known to be like this kind of shining example of like, look at this beautiful balance. And then these two DLC characters, they came out, and it's so far, they're so powerful to the point where there are suspicions. People are suspicious that it might be to like maybe to get more sales or something, because anybody who knows anything about the game, and the developers, they understand their game, right? And this is not like a new game. Tekken has had legacy mechanics for so many years. Tekken is known to not have changed their game radically in the way Street Fighter has with each iteration. So they understand their game. So the amount that they're overpowered was kind of, I think a lot of people had a bunch of suspicions.
Do you guys actually think if that was true, if that was the companies that make these games plan, we have to make this character busted so everyone buys it? Do you actually think that's a valid strategy? Like, I
guess it would depend. I mean, from a business perspective, it would make sense. I understand never having a character that's underpowered come out. Right. But I mean, this was what made me think about this was actually League of Legends. Was when they were adding in characters in the early days, it's like, of course, this is the best character now.
Right.
But as we're getting into a world where microtransactions are just everywhere in games, or in a game like Tekken where you release a new character and it's so strong that you fucking literally have to, even if you don't play the character, you have to have it so you understand how to beat it.
Yeah.
And how the character operates.
I just wonder if my thinking on that's always been like Tekken 7's been out now for, 4 or 5 years. And how long has it been out?
It's been out since 2017 was the console release. 2015, I believe, is the arcade release.
Okay.
So 4 or 5 years, yeah.
But like in my mind, anyone who's still playing that game is like hardcore enough that they'll just buy the character, whether it's really good or not. That's kind of my thinking. Like, maybe I'm wrong about that, but if I'm still playing a game for 5 years, I'm just gonna buy the character. It doesn't matter if it's like super busted, as long as maybe like you say, if it's not like totally shit. Like I just don't know if that's.
Because I hear people talk about this, and I mean, maybe I'm like applying really nefarious intentions to just like a company that's trying to make a new character that's cool that you're gonna like, but I do hear people talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, it's, these companies have to make money, right? And to mess with to make like a character so strong that it's kind of like a pay to win thing. Obviously, for competitive people, that's just like this is like the worst thing, right? But I think there are ways that they can still make a lot of money without like messing with the competitive side of things. And if you look at a popular example is the way Street Fighter has done way too many Chun costumes. It's almost like a meme now. It's like, oh, you guys are gonna like fix the netcode? It's like, we have more Chun.
We're
costumes.
thinking about it.
We're thinking about it, and then 10 new Chun-Li costumes come out because those things sell, right? And it's like, I think that's way better than like messing with like.
I didn't really get the Chun costume thing, and then sometimes I play Street Fighter with my wife. My wife actually, she hates video games, but she likes Street Fighter for some reason. And I shouldn't say she hates video games; she doesn't play them, but she likes Street Fighter. And she's like looking through all the Chun costumes, and she's just like, "Oh, I really like this one." And there's like, "Oh, look how many colors there are." And she's like, she spent like 20 minutes choosing the skin she was gonna fight me with, and I'm just like,
"You're gonna lose anyway." So
it's funny. Like, and when I saw her doing that, I was like, "Okay, I get it."
No, this happened to me. I just got Fall Guys for my girlfriend. Ooh. And like she's just going through the outfits and the colors and the stripes. You can have that little jelly bean and what it's gonna be, and
I'm for that kind of stuff. If to
even
make
in
money.
Dark Souls, actually, I kind of get into the armor sets and stuff and how my guy's gonna look.
Wait, are there DLC armor sets?
No, but I mean when you're just doing the whole Barbie doll thing, but with
and you're like, oh, I really like how this one looks, but this one has like better stats.
This one makes me a little bit faster, but that one's pretty cool looking.
When I played Dark Souls 1, I was like, that game was so hard. I was just like, no, I'm gonna look like an idiot. I don't care. I'm gonna look as stupid as possible. With
2 different shoes.
I looked so dumb by the end. Like, it was like, my character looked like an idiot. But then like when I played Bloodborne, I realized that like the armor and like the stuff that you can equip didn't really change your character as drastically as Dark Souls.
That's true.
So like I heard like some people referenced Bloodborne as being kind of like fashion born because you can actually like have more freedom to dress your character up without like sacrificing your abilities and stuff. So maybe they thought about that a little bit because Bloodborne is like kind of more stylistic and it has a Victorian era kind of aesthetic going on. So I don't know. It is important, right?
Did you guys ever hear about this conspiracy theory about it with Quake, where Quake 3, I think, was so popular, the next Quake didn't get any traction? Or maybe this was Quake 2 and Quake 3 couldn't get any traction, but that they released a patch that had a bug so that the old version wasn't playable.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I've heard about this. This is really old.
I always get Quake 2 and 3. Actually, I get them confused because
it's a blur for me.
One of them I actually played a shit ton of.
Yeah.
And I don't, in good faith, remember which one it was.
So somebody really important, when this is my first year out here, somebody from a really important company came out here and told me this conspiracy theory. And I was like, are you serious? He's like, yeah, some people believe that might be true, that like id Software had to try to sabotage the old game and basically release a version that was just to try to push people.
We've seen other companies like become kind of victims of their own success with one game where they release a sequel and people are like, well, the old one's just better.
Yeah.
You guys clearly just don't understand what it was we liked so much about
this. Is actually, it seems like most modern games are suffering from this.
Yeah.
Smash has struggled with this.
Yeah.
StarCraft 2 had massive difficulty getting traction in Korea. It's got its scene now, but StarCraft 1 is still bigger.
I think that just happens with any game where it's like you invest a lot of time into, and especially if it's competitive, right? So if you learn StarCraft, if you learn Brood War, like since the game came out, you're gonna have like this body of knowledge that only applies to Brood War, right? And it's like if you're gonna play a new game, obviously that's not gonna apply. There's gonna be a lot of things that don't apply to the new game, and a lot of people might not like that, right? So I think that happens with every iteration. Even in Tekken, like people have like their favorite Tekken games, right? But even Tekken is one of the franchises where they haven't, like in fighting games, they haven't changed it as drastically as other franchises, like other 2D franchises. But still, like there are people who prefer like some of the old games. But I think there's kind of, you got to find that right balance of like there's always going to be people who are like, they're going to like the old thing like no matter what. But then there's also like, it's on the developer to kind of, like I was talking about this on my stream with the developer of Punch Planet, and we were debating like, would Street Fighter ever get rid of motion inputs in their game, right? Because games are now heading towards removing motion inputs. Like obviously like Smash kind of like did
when
that
you mean
first.
Motion input, do you mean like a
quarter
fireball?
Circle forward?
Okay.
Yeah, like it's not a motion input if it's just like hold one direction and press a button, right? It's just that's still considered an easy input. But when you're doing like a quarter circle forward, half circle forward,
or even a charge.
Yeah, a charge 2 second or charge
thinking
a
about
second.
getting rid of that?
So games are already getting rid of that. So like Fantasy Strike it just became free to play, but that game is like the most accessible fighting game or of the 2D kind of.
It's one thing to do with a new game like that, right? But it's another thing to take an existing beloved franchise and change it. Yeah.
You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of StarCraft 1 to StarCraft 2. I really felt strongly about this. The fact that you could grab the whole army. And I like StarCraft 2. I want to put that disclaimer out here because no matter what, there's shitlords on either side of of which StarCraft 1 or StarCraft 2 that try to shit on the other one.
They're both amazing games.
They're both great.
They're just different.
I was so shocked when they just wanted to downgrade, in my mind, the mechanical aspect of StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2. And I know that they wanted to make StarCraft 2 more accessible, but I thought that was what the game was the mechanical thing. And when you're talking about the fireball mechanic, let's say, getting removed, or charge mechanics, to me, that is essential to what the game is.
Yeah, so I'm like literally before I came here to do this podcast, like I'm working on a video right now that's about that topic, right? So I think recently there was a YouTuber who made a video about talking about fighting games, that basically calling for the abolition of motion inputs in fighting games, and it kind of like blew up and it was very controversial and stuff, and surprisingly, like there are a lot of people who are like, yeah, like these motion inputs, like they're just so unnecessary, and it's like kind of like gatekeeping, and I was just like, whoa, wait a minute, like, no, okay, we have to talk about this, right? So I decided to make the next video about this topic, and I think a lot of people don't understand that. You play Honda, you play charge character.
Yeah.
You understand like the idea of like having a charge character. There's a game to it, right? If somebody, you don't want people to jump over you because then you lose your charge because you're charging the wrong way. If somebody jumps over you,
or you got to charge down, and then you can.
When someone crosses you up and you get them,
yeah,
with the cross up headbutt, that's the best feeling as a Honda main. I think every Honda main knows that feeling when they think they're crossing you up and they get the headbutt anyways, and you're like, I mean, if you get rid of that, it's
there's something.
It's the soul of the game.
Yeah, there's something missing, right? Yeah. So I think a lot of people just don't understand because maybe it's too hard and they couldn't do it. But then I don't buy the argument that it's too hard. I think people just don't want to put the time into it. And if you don't want to put in the time into it, you can play a game that doesn't have that. That's fine.
Or a game that has both. Like
or a game that has both. Like Grand Blue. But it's this idea that like, okay, these are stupid and like we need to get rid of it. Like I think that mentality, like people need to realize that that's not how you should think about game development. That limits, I think, creative creativity in game design.
It's a feature, not a bug.
You brought up StarCraft. We've never talked about this, but Is that the main feature between Brood War and StarCraft 2 that you think maybe I don't know how to say this, is the reason you might like StarCraft 1 more, is the fact that you can select 12 units in Brood War and all your units in StarCraft 2? Or is there anything else?
So I was talking to Artosis about this, and we kind of came to the same conclusion that the early game in general is a little bit more interesting in StarCraft 1 because it's not automated. You know, you start out with almost nothing, and everything you have to do manually, and it makes for a lot of unique situations. I guess to answer your question, yeah, I mean, for me, I like the mechanical component. I like that the more buildings I have, the more things I have to make out of manually. If my buildings aren't placed well, I have to move my screen around. The bigger my army is, the harder it is to move. If I attack in and I fuck up and it's the wrong attack, the harder it is to escape. Where and you know, StarCraft 2 is really good, and it is the fastest RTS, which I think people don't talk about for whatever reason with StarCraft 2. I think, especially out in Korea, there's a big view of Brood War being so hardcore, especially in every little aspect.
In StarCraft 2, you can lose a max army in like a second.
Yeah, you can like just have your screen in the wrong spot and die, and that is that's a cool part about the game. That's actually, I think, the selling point of the game, and I think it's better for TV because the pacing of it. It lends itself to. I mean, StarCraft 1 sometimes like.
I think we saw that last season, not this past season, but the last season. I think it was Parting versus TY.
Yeah.
Where he clearly just walked his army in the wrong spot, and got eviscerated. And you're just like watching, and you're like, it was 1 second, and it cost him the series. It cost him best of 5. And that StarCraft 2 is punishing in that way, and I think a lot of people don't recognize it. But
and you got to respect that. But yeah, for me, for what I grew up on, and also StarCraft 1 being, I think, the most balanced RTS out of Warcraft 3, StarCraft 1, StarCraft 2, it's basically regarded as the cleanest. I think it's because the game's so messy. Kind of like in Street Fighter, let's pretend that we're in, and this is all theory, right? So this isn't that valuable, but let's pretend we're in a world where it's all easy input, right? There's no fireball. I think we cut through everything very quickly and see where things end up and what's the easiest little mini game you're having in a fighting game.
Sure.
You know, maybe it turns out Ken's the best, or I don't know, you know, E Honda's the best,
right? Because
the decision tree is simplified to a point where it isn't hard to get to the end.
You arrive at optimal so quickly, right? And then where do you go from there? You've cracked the code. It's done.
So actually, kind of what's interesting is, so there's this game, Fantasy Strike. I do want to talk about this game, just because it's almost like that science experiment, like actualized, right? So it's like, what happens when you make a 2D fighting game, like traditional, like Street Fighter style fighting game, where you make it as accessible as possible. And this game basically, it's free to play now. You can like actually try it. Anybody listening, but it's basically, you know, no motion inputs. You have 2 buttons that are dedicated towards special moves where you just press the button and it does the special move, right? So, you know, every character is like that.
The health is in like blocks.
The health is in like units, like hearts in Zelda. So you know exactly how much health you have. It's not like it's not like a bar where like
you can figure out like how much health a move does, right? Yeah, which is always
Yeah, and the game is fun. I like it. It's an enjoyable game. It doesn't give me the same like highs as like playing, you know, other like traditional games like Street Fighter or even Tekken or whatever, right? But it's a different game, right? So I realize like it's a fighting game, but it's just they're just different things that get you excited in this game. And I almost like in the video that I'm working on, like I basically like I'm working on this analogy of like, you know, kind of like food, right? It's like motion inputs and like some of that executional aspect is kind of like a little bit like a certain like spice that you have, right? And I talk about hot wings in the video, right? It's kind of like buffalo wings are like, that's like the original hot, like spice. It's like the original flavor for chicken wings. It's like people call, you know, chicken wings buffalo wings because, you know, that's just like the standard default flavor that's been around like forever, right? But, you know, is that flavor like better or worse than lemon pepper? Like they're both really good, right? But I think if you were to be like, oh man, you know, buffalo buffalo flavor is a little bit spicy. We should just abolish buffalo wings, like that buffalo flavor. We should just abolish that. We shouldn't ever make that again. It's like you're just an idiot then at that point, right? It's
Right.
Like, no, that's we have lemon pepper for people who like that, and then we have buffalo wings for people who like that, and then we have like atomic flavored, like super, like you have challenges where it's so spicy, and I think like at least with fighting games, that's what the beauty about fighting games is, like there's so many fighting games, right? It's just like in our venue we have people coming and there's like some weird community that just plays this game you never heard of or something, right?
We found out there's actually a Dead or Alive community in Korea, and if you
Really?
asked me that like 3 or 4 months ago, I
We
would
would've
have
said
said
dead.
no. Yeah. Yeah. And it's great, and they come out and they're like so happy to have a place to play. Not to sidetrack, but there's communities for every game. There's so many fighting games.
Yeah.
And they all have a group of people that love them.
See, this is the opposite. This is a beautiful situation for fighting games, right? Because there's so many good ones. And in RTS, it's like almost always everybody has to either agree on one fucking game, or you're going to go into obscurity. Your game still has a scene, but you're in the shadows now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
You might not have competitions.
You might not have competitions. It seems like things now, for the first time ever, are evening out, where like Warcraft 3 has all these tournaments coming up, and StarCraft 1 is getting tournaments outside of Korea, obviously all online still because nobody can go anywhere because of the virus. But usually it was like when StarCraft 2 came out, everybody just sort of nodded and said, yeah. Like before the game even came out, it's like, well, we have no choice. We have to make this work.
Do you remember the Pro League that had StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2? Like,
I do. I do.
That's
I
one
was
of the
there
funniest things
I was
me.
there to see every bad decision that was made
Yeah.
with the games I've worked on.
I've told people about that. I told Kurt, he's one of the guys that works here, and he's a translator now at GSL, and I told him.
He does a great job, yeah.
And I told him, and he was like, no way. Like, they had one team play each other, but they had to play the first half with StarCraft 1, and then it was StarCraft 2. And I was like, yeah, and there was 2v2 in there, too.
Yeah.
It's just like, bad experiments.
So
but yeah.
Actually, I'm kind of curious. So, like, I mean, obviously, you guys are like the RTS guys. I guess you guys play fighting games too. But you like Josh has big StarCraft 2 background, and so I'm kind of curious coming from a fighting gamer perspective. So, like, what do you guys think of like games like Age of Empires 2? Like, apparently they have a scene.
Apparently it's really good. I've never played it.
Okay.
I've never played it growing up casually, but I never. StarCraft sucked me in a way that like no game. I think it's probably like it just something about it is just different. And I've played Age of Empires 2 a lot. It's a really fun game, but competitively I wasn't drawn in. I think it was the speed of StarCraft that drew me in.
Age of Empires, they just remastered that, right?
Yeah.
It's got a scene, because I just rated a StarCraft 2 pro gamer that I know, and he was playing Age. I didn't realize he was on that game, but it's got a scene. I don't know it that well. That's like, with all the Blizzard games, there's a certain similarity. For basically the three pillars of RTS. So StarCraft 1, StarCraft 2, Warcraft 3.
Yeah.
Age has had a scene. It's never been as big, but apparently there's a lot to the game. But one of the things with Age of Empires is that the maps are self-generated. Did you know that? So you just don't know.
Okay.
What you're
There's
in
no
for.
like, I spawned at 3:00, so he must be at 6.
Okay.
Like all this stuff like I've been showing you with like when the Protoss trying to wall in on a map. There's nothing like that.
Okay.
It's like you just start out on an open area.
A bit more free form.
Yeah.
Bit of uncertainty.
But there could be rivers and even resources.
Yeah.
I think could be in like different
Yes.
spots.
Yes.
And
you don't start out right next to
you
resources.
might not even start out with the same resources.
Yeah. I don't know how true this is because I never played the game. I want to put a disclaimer out there before.
It is true. I don't know how true it is for competitive play.
I don't know.
They might have specific stages for competitive
But I think I introduced you to this guy one of the nights we met near my studio, the studio in Samsung. The Brown Bear, the guy who makes
Oh,
those
yeah, I
he's an
remember
Age of
him,
Empires 2 guy.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so he does a lot of videos. He's super into StarCraft and plays StarCraft as well. But yeah, there's a whole different system like in place for Age of Empires, and I guess it works.
Okay.
But I don't know it. I do find trying to learn more than one RTS to any high level is pretty
Yeah, so there's
impossible.
like overlap in like in fighting games, there's overlap is a big thing, right? So
Right.
if you play if you know how to play like your Street Fighter games, right? It's gonna translate to so many things. So in my motion input video I'm working on, I make the point that if you learn like 4 motions, like just like 4, like people have this image that like you have to learn like this endless list, they have all these characters and stuff.
Yeah.
But if you really look at like how many motions there are, it's really like 4 or 5 gets you there most of the time, and that's like quarter circle. There's like quarter circle back, but really, if you think about it, that's just quarter circle the other way, right? That's the same. And then there's the Shoryuken motion. That's the one that is at most risk of disappearing because that's the hardest one to do. That's common still. And there's a charge motion. Yeah.
I mean, it's not. I'll be honest. Like, I didn't play these games. I come from StarCraft and Smash, right? So I've haven't played Street Fighter that long, and I don't find any of those motions difficult to do. And
That's the thing.
Yeah. For people that say like, I've even now been introducing people at the venue. So it's this cool thing. That's one of the cool things about having this place is a lot of Tekken guys are kind of, I see them watching Smash. And I'm like, dude, you want to try? They're like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, just sit down and try. It's a game. Like, that's why we have this place. And a couple of them have gotten really into it. And then conversely, some of the Smash guys are saying, I kind of want to try Street Fighter. I kind of want to try Guilty Gear. And, well, we have like 20 setups. Just try whatever you want. And some of the Smash guys are like, man, these motion inputs are actually easy. Like, because that's always been the joke, like from the FGC guys, is these Smash guys can't handle motion inputs, and like a lot of the Smash guys are like, this is way easier than doing like some of the combos we already do. Like I just do this quarter circle, and like especially now with the modern games, the input leniency is so
Right.
Yeah.
big. So
Yeah, so like
Yeah.
this is like if you go on the internet, if you go online, if you go on Reddit, there's like what you see with the communities is not an accurate representation. There's like a lot of, I mean, obviously like how it is on Twitter and in social media in general, where people get rewarded for just saying provocative stuff, right?
Yeah.
But if you just look at the internet, you'll see the this kind of like division between these fighting game and Smash communities. But if you go to like an offline tournament or you just go in real life, you will actually see that a lot of these people are interested in each other's games and they're trying it out. And there's like, they're just here to play the games, right? So it's almost a meme in the FGC. Like, there's a popular Reddit for fighting games called Kappa, and one of their memes, and they love being mentioned in like media and stuff, but they're gonna mention, they often mention as a meme that we don't really play fighting games here,
Yeah.
like that's like the joke, like, but that's the thing though, like when you meet people who actually play these games, they're just like, the question really is like, what games do you play? And this is another, I guess I don't want to say problem, but it's a phenomenon where you have people like, fighting games are kind of like, they're kind of like indie bands, right? It's like, like, oh, what bands do you listen to? Suddenly you have like a certain image, right? Or, what games do you play? Or, what games do you like, right? And people have this thing, but if you just go to these events, like, people just play the game. And if they don't play it, they don't play it. Like, because what are you doing here if you're not like, you don't come and pay like the entry fee to be like, well, I play these games, that makes me cool, right? Like,
Yeah.
no, you pay money to play the games, right? So when you get to that, like, there's definitely a discrepancy with like the online internet culture and like offline, and I think it kind of sucks that now there's more emphasis on online because of this COVID situation.
If you've ever played, if you've competed in a game offline, if you've gone somewhere, whether it's StarCraft, whether it's Smash, whether it's Street Fighter, Tekken, I think that feeling of like, you don't know this guy you're about to play against, you're in a bracket, there might be people standing behind you watching you, and you're gonna play best of 3. For me, that's one of my favorite feelings in the world. Like, do you guys remember the first time you did that for a game? Like,
For sure, yeah.
Yeah. What was it for you?
I mean, going to the arcade,
Yeah.
it was a kid and
Yeah.
doing that was so, I don't know. There's something of a real trial by fire. It makes a man out of you. You know what I mean?
It ruined single player games for me. I don't play single player games. I don't get the feeling.
See, I still think you should play some. I think there are some good
I know,
single player games.
We argue about this a lot.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I just remember when I was a kid, I'd go to an arcade in the mall next to my house where I grew up, and like, just we would steal money from my mom, like a couple quarters we'd find in the house, and we'd hang on to the quarters all day and wait until it was our time to play in the arcade. Like, we'd watch everybody play, and just playing there and trying to beat somebody was so exhilarating, and it was so punishing too.
Yeah.
You know, there's no, I know we're in a, this is cliche to say, but we're in an era where everybody gets a trophy, but it's fucking true. You know, to just lose and to deal with the loss and it's like you're done, that builds character.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. It's pretty unforgiving when this is the thing about like the arcades is always a money match, right?
Yeah.
Like that's something like, and the thing was like, you might be like, oh, it's just a quarter. Is it really a money match? Well, in those days, like if you're like a kid,
Yeah.
like that's, you know, like people are using their lunch money. Like I never did that because like I never like actually we had like these a different system for lunch, but we had these cards and stuff. It was kind of weird, but I never used my lunch money or anything. But like it's not like your parents are going to give you like $20 worth of quarters tokens to like play your head off. Like they're just going to give you like a little bit to play, and that's it, right? So you can't just, and if you look at these like old games, like how fast the matches go, like you can like get double perfected in like, you could like pay 50 cents, you know, half a dollar, and end up having like less than a minute of playtime.
Yeah, and it's over.
Yeah, because like especially
and then the guy's just like next, and you're standing there like
you're just like, oh, I just like
I got fucked up.
I paid money to like feel bad. Yeah. Oh shit, this is rough.
That feeling of like competing in a game for me was like I still get it sometimes when I go to Evo Japan and stuff. I still get that feeling, and I can't.
What is that feeling? Is it adrenaline? Is it anxiety?
I don't know. Just like this dude is like, I went to Evo Japan this year and I'm waiting for my game. They're like, if he doesn't show up, he's going to get DQ'd. And this guy comes running in, this Japanese dude. He's all sweaty. He's wearing a suit. He's got this giant, like hard briefcase, and he sits down. He pulls out a key. I swear I'm not making this up. There's people watching this. He pulls out a key. He opens his wallet. He's got like keys hanging in it. He pulls one out, unlocks his briefcase, opens it up, and he's just got like 8 different controllers in there. And I'm just like, who is this dude? He's like looking like he looks like Neo from the Matrix.
Yeah.
And just that feeling of like, I have no idea how good this guy is.
Yeah. He might just be a crazy man with a suitcase full of bad controllers.
Yeah, exactly. Or he could be amazing, but I'm about to find out. And I'm playing a best of 3 in this room with 6,000 other people, and my friends are standing behind me. And I don't know. It's just like the unknown of, I've played this game a lot. Now how do I measure up? Kind of. And I don't think that's why for me, online, no matter how good the netcode gets, it's not a replacement for this feeling. And that could be, I've played in StarCraft tournaments offline, I've played in Smash and all these other games. To me, there's only offline, sitting next to your opponent, looking at them. You can't replace that. And I think, I'm kind of
it's actually really
now,
it's actually really nerve wracking. Like I remember the first tournaments the first like big tournament that I played in, like not like locals or whatever, was I think it was Evo 2016 when like Street Fighter 5 first came out, and I remember that specifically because, you know, when my first match came, my hands were uncontrollably shaking. Like I was like shaking so much.
I've had that. That's a weird experience.
And it was weird because like
shaking,
I knew I was nervous.
Shaking. Yeah.
I knew I was nervous, but like I also had this physiological response to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make sure you know you're nervous, right? My body's like, yeah, you're so nervous right now, and basically, you know, I did okay. I you know, for a first run at like a major tournament, but then is what's weird is every other tournament, like it just got better, and like now, like I don't shake at all. I don't even get nervous at all. It's like I'm used to it because I played in so many tournaments, right? And what's interesting is you'll see people that it is their first tournament and they are shaking uncontrollably, and I think it happens to like so many, almost everyone, and
There are good players that get that.
Yeah, there are
every
good players that
tournament.
are like that. So this one guy, he was so good. Like he actually made it pretty far. And like when I played him, like I thought I was just gonna destroy him because he was like shaking so uncontrollably. He could barely like speak. He was like stuttering. He's like, oh, good games, like.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, this guy is like so like nervous. Like there's no way I can lose to him. And like completely lost him. I got destroyed. And like, man, like I guess like nervousness and like skill level, there's no reliable correlation there. It's just you could be like super good and like
We've had guys come to our Smash tournaments. We had one guy come and all his friends were like, dude, this guy's fucking good. Like he's really good. He's about to go on a run today. And first round he gets matched against because of the way we were doing a round robin style. Anyway, that doesn't matter. He gets matched against a really good player, one of the best players in Korea. And he wins the first game, loses the second. So even taking a game off this player means he's pretty good, right? And he DQs himself from the tournament.
What do you mean he DQs himself?
He just says he comes to me. He's like, Josh, I can't do it. I'm too. I can't.
Oh, he just steps away.
Yeah, and I was like, what do you? He's like, I'm out. I can't play in bracket. It's too nerve wracking. I'm like shaking. I'm freaking out. And I'm like,
Oh,
dude,
wow.
you took one of the best players here to game 3. We just started the tournament. There's like 80 people here. You're probably gonna get like top 8 at the worst.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I can't. And he just
Wow.
and this is a guy who's really good at the game, but that's the thing. Like, if you're gonna win these giant brackets, especially Evo is like the most extreme case, right? 3,000 people. It takes a combination of like skill and focus and being able to, nerves of steel to just go through this whole bracket, play on stream, and just focus. And yeah,
That's so interesting. I'm sure you've seen on the StarCraft Reddit, every month there's some thread that comes up about ladder anxiety and there's there's a huge amount of people that just suffer from anxiety playing games, and they're trying to deal with it. And it's funny because there are people who are heavily anxious that just succeed anyways. I've seen this in tournaments where I cast where the guy's on camera and his cup is like shaking and he's spilling water all over himself as he's drinking from it, but he's winning,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fascinating to see that fear for some people is so strong that it actually repels them.
Yeah, well, in
from
a
the
one-on-one
tournament.
game, it's basically like, and that's why I think all of us like these one-on-one games. Like, we don't play team games. I don't. But
Team games frustrate me.
Yeah.
I enjoy it like as for fun, but I can't be super competitive in a team game.
So in a one-on-one game, it's you sit down against someone, you're either better or you're worse. Full stop. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no, oh well, we played pretty well, but my teammate. No, you lost. Or you won, and that's it, and it's just you. And I think some people can't handle that, maybe. I don't know, but when I played StarCraft, ladder anxiety was a huge topic, and people were talking about ways to mitigate it, and I was just like, just play more.
Just lose. Just I think the thing is to embrace the anxiety.
Yeah.
To embrace the weirdness of it.
I think it helps also to have other people to talk about it. So when you know other people like got as salty as you or lost or had their story about being salty on stream, that stuff helps. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, like this is like everyone goes through, this is a part of the process, right? And so I think a big part of accepting defeat is also knowing that you're not the only one. If you look at like in fighting games, you look at like the best fighting game players like Daigo or Sonic Fox or whoever. All those people have had crushing defeats, way more crushing than I'll ever face. Like they've had defeats where it costs them, like tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? It's, it goes all the way to the top, right? So no matter how good you are, no matter how much you win, you're still gonna face that at the highest levels. And you can see it if you go on streams with like some of the top players. They get salty too. It's like,
yeah,
it's not like Leffen doesn't get salty when he loses. Like he's just as salty as anyone else.
Offline, some of these guys, you see them, they lose and they go on Twitter tirades.
Yeah. Punk. Yeah.
And for me, it's
like
funny. Like I think everyone likes seeing someone else get salty when they lose, right?
Sure. Yeah, there's something about it.
And but it's to be not to sound like I don't know too, but there's something that shows if you get that salty over something, you obviously care about it too, and I think that's cool. When you see a top player that they're clearly super upset and they're saying like, oh, the monitor or my controller or whatever, and you're like, okay, well, that's a poor excuse, you lost, but also I understand because you really care about this thing and you wanted to win, you want to be the best, and I think that's cool.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, like, you know, where this whole thing will go. This kind of, I guess there's a cultural aspect to one-on-one video gaming, right? Where it can't be replicated with, you know, other forms of gaming, because if it's one versus one, this is another reason why, like, you know, I think StarCraft and fighting games have a lot of like crossover, right? It's kind of that aspect, right? They're completely different games, but the idea of like losing a crushing defeat means that like all the burden's on you. Like you blame yourself or you make some salty excuse or whatever, right? That's like a real thing in both these fields. So I'm wondering, like, is it going to get to the point where you can't enjoy your wins, you know, anymore? Like,
There are people that are like that.
yeah, because like, I mean, because the thing is, like,
They're completely toxic too.
so
true.
that's the thing. Like, okay, so you say that's completely toxic, but those people are saying that it's toxic to like win and maybe like get excited about it or pop off.
No, these people are just wired incorrectly. I think they're all fucked up. No, I mean, if you can't just enjoy your win and you're like, there's some weird fucking thing out there that like you can't enjoy this, or there's something.
No, but I mean, like, so like this is the thing. Like, I've talked to people about this, and I don't know, like, so like there was I think I was talking to this kind of this person that just got into like esports and gaming and stuff like that, and this person asked me, like, so why do you like enjoy like these fighting games? Like, what is the thing that you like about these games? And this is a guy like getting into this industry, and basically like in front of like all like there are like other fighting game players around in the room, and this person asked me this, and I basically like it was like half facetious but half like truthful. I basically said, like, well, I like to play people in these games and then crush them so that they feel bad in their defeat. And and he was just like, what the hell? But then if you think about it, like, if you don't enjoy your wins, like, you want to win, right? You want to win, and that's like that's kind of the bare truth. And like, it's not like, you know, it's not the nicest truth, I guess, but it's like, it is a reality. Like, you're lying if you say like, oh man, I won, and like,
well, especially like, what's the best feeling win in StarCraft? For me, it's not a 40-minute close game that I won. It's like a dirty gimmicky cheese, and I know that guy's
Losing it.
Just broke his keyboard.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I'm a Terran and he just cannon rushed me and it worked. Like,
Yeah.
like, that's the best. And it's the same in fighting games, I think, when you beat a guy using like,
You throw somebody 4 times in a row.
Yeah.
and-
oh yeah, like I like, you know, at EVOD, I don't want to mention any names or anyone, but like when I won this one game against this person, he slammed his stick, and I was like that felt really good. Like,
Very
I
satisfying.
made somebody I made somebody like want to like slam their stick, right? And I don't know if it's kind of like it might sound weird for a lot of people, but like, it's like, you know, obviously I don't want the stick to get hurt or anything like that, but
I want
mean,
the stick to die. I want them to have to get a new
no,
stick.
I don't, you know, that's a good arcade stick's a good arcade stick, but there is that aspect, and I hope that doesn't get lost ever. I mean, maybe, what if this is a thing where like in 20 years it's just like, you can't have this, like, you can't have one-on-one.
I'm sorry.
I thought my beer was
Actually,
already capped. It was uncapped. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
I watched that
another
happen in slow motion. So,
Gerald, go ahead, please.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know, maybe it's thinking too much into it or too far into the future, but
Yeah.
like, I'm wondering if like this whole like thing, because there's a lot of people get upset when they lose, right? And
Yeah.
like, if you look at like even if you look at like Smash, like the way, you know, Nintendo has made this game, you know, for all ages, obviously, and if you if you watch the win screen, like when you watch two players win, or two players fight it out, and one person loses, one person wins. That's not the story at the end of it. It's one person got first place, one person got second place, right?
Right.
So, like, will it ever get to the point where it just gets to the point where, where you're talking about, like, like everyone gets a trophy, right?
It just says, like, great job, everyone. And you're like,
I do feel like there's a little bit of that pull. I mean, the bucketing system in certain ladders, like, what is it? And I think it's in Mortal Kombat. I think it's in Tekken as well, where, like, you get into a league, but the fucking title doesn't tell you where you're at.
Oh, the titles are just... Yeah.
Like the Tekken ranking title system.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that's
like,
kind of like, I don't know if that was just kind of like an edgy fun thing, but what's funny about Tekken's ranking system is, like, they do it by colors, right? Because the titles don't, if you say I'm Usurper, like, nobody knows, like, how good you are, right?
Exactly.
So, like, unless you really know all the ranks, but they do it by colors, right? So, like, every color is like, your silver, gold, bronzes. They're done by, like, this weird color coding system. I don't know what the rhyme, if there's any rhyme or reason behind it, but the lowest one is like the teal ranks, right? It's teal colored ranks. And if you get to the highest of the teal, it calls you Grandmaster.
Yeah.
And, like,
that's a very strong term.
And the one before,
around.
That's the absolute highest rank you can get in StarCraft 2. Like, there's only 200 in each region.
Or chess or anything intellectual is Grandmaster. It's just,
Yeah. So, like, I mean, it's, there kind of is this thing where you don't want, I mean, look, these are games. People want to feel like have a good time, right? And if there is a competitive aspect, there are going to be times where you're not having a good time, right? I mean, you had a stream today, it didn't go well. My last stream in Tekken was, like, really, I lost, like, so many ranks, and, like,
I love watching both of you get salty on
stream. I mean, like, and, like, I get salty. Like, I got mad at this dude on stream. Like, I felt a little bit bad because, like, he was like, I made a comment about my execution. Like, I was just like, oh man, like, I think I blamed my stick or something. He's like, oh, you're such a screw, you're blaming your stick, and I just told him, like, no, actually, I'm blaming your mom. Like, she's, like, really distracting. Like, I was just like, oh shit,
You got to channel that inner Artosis.
Like,
nobody does it better than Artosis, where he tells them they're
a
fucking
chat.
moron, and then
guy in the chat, fuck yourself.
Yeah, I bought
guy in the chat.
I bought one of his guy in the chat mugs, actually. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, your channel using him as, like, I don't want to sidetrack, but using him as, like, your subscription notification that's like, I'm not overusing this word, but genius. I think it's so funny.
Well, he was cool to let me do it.
Yeah.
Because I showed him ahead of time, and I'm like, this is funny, but are you okay with this? And he was like, this is good.
Yeah, he's a good sport. That was cool.
Yeah. No, I mean, definitely Artosis is someone who, like, embraces the salt. Like,
he lives in the salt. What were you saying with the Bane reference earlier? Like,
like you think you embrace salt, but I was born in it, molded by it. I only knew victory when I was almost a man. It's the notion, like, the idea of making these games maybe less punishing or easier. I think there is maybe a movement. I don't know if it's still happening, but among game developers to do that, but. This is always my question is, like, do you think game developers, when they make a game that's super successful and people like it, like Brood War or like, some of the early Street Fighter, the Tekken, some of these games, do you think they are able to identify the reasons that people fall in love with their games? Because sometimes I feel like...
I don't think so.
Yeah.
This was proven. Let's get outside of our world. Let's talk about World of Warcraft. They seem to totally misunderstand World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Classic, which they re-released just recently, was fucking huge and took over everywhere as far as MMOs go. And it was like, it's the same old game. It just was more hardcore, was more unforgiving. And the whole time, the World of Warcraft team thought that people wanted it to be easier. I think there's certain things that companies have to wrestle with, and that they're trying to sell more copies, and the easiest way as an idea to sell more copies is to make it easier.
Right.
But what's happening when you're making a game more accessible to a new person is you're making it less enjoyable to a hardcore.
You're removing depth.
Yes, you're removing depth. You're removing a lot of what kept everybody there.
Like, I've never heard anyone say I don't like this game because it's too hard. I've literally never
Well,
heard
dude,
someone say
that's not true. You'll see it online. People
Maybe,
will talk
yeah,
about it,
yeah.
but when you really get to the point, you'll see people not like a game because of a bad design, right?
Right.
Like there's certain, those old graphic adventure games, like King's Quest and stuff.
Yeah,
I love that.
There
game,
was,
yeah.
but there was a problem in those games called pixel hunting, where you just wouldn't see like a small dagger on the ground that you had to click on.
Yeah.
Right. So you're actually hunting for a certain pixel you have to click on, which distracts from the game. That's an example of a bad, I shouldn't say a design, a problem inside the game that is too hard and isn't enjoyable.
But see, this is the problem, though.
Yeah.
So, like, that threshold is different for every generation, right? So, what if somebody says the thing that you enjoy and you like is too hard and it's unnecessary, right? This is exactly, I'm making a video about motion inputs for this exact reason, right? So, like, this is the thing, like, I mean, I've talked to people about this, and they're like, "Oh, Gerald, like they're never going to take away motion inputs from any Street Fighter game. Like Street Fighter 6, Street Fighter 7 is never going to do that." But then it's like, well, what if the Riot game Project L does away with motion inputs, which there's a high likelihood because that company made Rising Thunder and they got bought out for it, and that game removed motion inputs, right? What if they do that and it's just like a huge success, right? It's just like all these new people like are playing it, and it just creates this new paradigm, right? This new like model for how a fighting game should be made, and then some people, high up at Capcom are like, okay, well, I mean, shit, like we have to do. Like, how are we going to compete
This
with
is
that?
the way of the buffalo.
Like this
That's
is
what we gotta
the
do.
way
Yeah.
things are going, and then like
See the way of the buffalo.
yeah, is that a Canadian expression or
Yeah, probably.
Saskatchewan? Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, but
I might have just made it up too.
I've heard it before, but yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's kind of like that as well, right? So like the thing that so like for example, like I'm coming from outside the StarCraft community. I'm just getting into Brood War. I mean, thanks to you, you've been kind of showing me like how to get into this game. But it's like this game is like a 1999 game, and people who are playing it, a lot of these people that never stop playing it, right?
Right.
And like you get to the point where like you have like Bonneth, like this Protoss player, where like I remember it's so funny. I watched Scarlett's stream. She's playing Brood War these days, right? And she plays Protoss as well. And I'm sure you've been watching some of that and watching her like rank up like way too fast. But she talks about like how she plays Bonneth, and like she's like, yeah, like yeah, he's really good, and like I can't get past him when he makes 4 units. Like after 4 units, like I can't beat his 4 units. Like
Yeah.
that's insane, right? It's
Yeah.
like he made 4 units. Well, I gotta fold, right?
Yeah, he gets
So-
4 Dragoons out and he wins the game.
yeah, 4 Dragoons, and like he can just win with that, right? And so it's, there's kind of a thing where you have this. I think some people will embrace that. They'll be like, "Whoa, that's so far, right? It goes so deep, right? Right? I like that's awesome. I'm like, try this, and I know I'm really far behind, but then it is hard, like to get into like StarCraft Brood War right now, because I mean, like just me, like I'm like trying to like it's like playing like Overcooked, but like everything's on fire all the time, right?
Yeah.
That's what Brood War feels like to me right now, and like I'm like doing everything right, but then like I'm also doing everything wrong all the time. And then I talk to StarCraft players, and they're like, "Oh yeah,
It's
yeah."
a normal
when you play
feeling,
StarCraft,
yeah.
like you always feel like you're doing everything wrong
And
all the
yeah,
time.
the better you get, the more you feel.
The more you
that.
feel like you're
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
everything wrong. Like I'm just like, "Oh, that probe was sitting there like the whole time. He didn't mind anything.
No,
like
yeah,
I didn't get anything out of that."
I've watched like amazing world class players sit and play. Their macro is amazing. Their APM is crazy high, and they're like, "Oh man, my macro's garbage. I need to redo my hotkeys."
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'm terrible at this game. I should stop playing." And they're obviously being ridiculous, but there is also it's because of that feeling that because there's never a limit to what you can do. The better you're out of the game, the more you realize what you're not doing. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So, yeah, StarCraft has been an interesting journey for me. Tekken kind of derailed my StarCraft, my Brood War playing a bit, but
It's hard to play too many hard games at
yeah,
once, too. It
I
really
know.
is. Yeah.
It's like Tekken is just like Tekken's one of those legacy games where, the beauty of Street Fighter has always been that it's actually like really simple and complex in that like you have like you look at Guile. He has 2 special moves. That's
Yeah.
and he's always had 2 special moves. Like everything else, like they've added a bunch of stuff here and there, but like he's this character with Sonic Boom and Flash Kick, right? It's just very simple. In Tekken, like you have a move list of like you'll have like most characters have like over like 80 moves, like, and most of them go like, or like a ton of them go over like go into like 100, you know, like over 100, right?
Different stances,
and all this stuff, and like Tekken's really a game of kind of like it's kind of it's so open-ended in that you have like, you know, it's like you have these, I guess fighting games in general are kind of like this, but you have like these action figures, and it's like okay, here's the toy, like what am I supposed to do with them? Well, that's up to you. Like here are the action figures, right? And so when I'm learning stuff about the game, I'm like, oh, how should I like play this character? And I'm playing Ling Xiaoyu. She's like been there since Tekken 3, I believe. I hope I'm not wrong about that, but very old character, and like, and I watch all the different like top players using this character, and I'm just like, it's so unrecognizable. Like, it's just like every person that uses this character plays in such a different way that like I can't, you know, it's insane. And so I'm watching Sodam, which is like one of my favorite Xiaoyu players, and the stuff that he does, like nobody else does. Like, and he always says on his stream, people are like, how the hell are you doing this stuff? How the hell are you like, you know, like how the hell are you making these setups? And he's just basically like, no, you gotta play for 23 years, man. I'm playing this character for 23 years. Never played any other character. 23 years, same character. And I'm like, damn, holy crap. And you look at like all these like obscure moves, like you look at that one move that like nobody uses or ever touches, and then he's just like has some like really brilliant way of like.
And we saw it at one of our events. We had a group of players come from Thailand. Obviously, a book won Evo Japan this year from Thailand. They have a strong Tekken scene, and he came with some other people, and one of them was a Xiaoyu main.
Yeah, he's like one of the top Xiaoyus of Thailand.
Yeah, and really good. And Sodam was there also, and he was watching him play, and he was like, I've never seen that. This is a guy who plays that character at a highly competitive level, and he's like, I've never seen that. How do you do that? And you know,
yeah, and he showed him
crazy.
like, yeah, it was like some stance switching stuff. So like Xiaoyu has like, you know, a bunch of stances, and like it's just some weird. The thing about fighting games is you have like, it's traditionally like 8-way joystick, and you have a few buttons for attacks, and the way you find like, I don't want to call them exploits, but they're kind of like things that were unintended in the game by a certain combination of, you know, of directions at a certain timing will get you, like move you through different stances, or, you know, create new possibilities with your character that the developers don't know. They don't know this.
There's no way they would
they
know
just
too.
made the system.
Yeah.
And then like you have a guy playing the thing for 23 years, and you can't compete with that. It doesn't matter if you've been on the Tekken team for like the whole time, you know, like you can't beat a guy who's been only playing that one character for 23. He's like your tester for that character for 23 years. Like no one's gonna know more than him about that character and the mechanics, and that's what's kind of cool about Tekken, in that like all the previous games, like they've kind of like built upon like all the characters, and they've added on, and there's a lot of legacy play. But if you look at Street Fighter, it's like the complete opposite. And the thing about Street Fighter is, like if you look at Third Strike, like it's so different from like Street Fighter 2, which is, you know, so different from 5, and so I mean that's kind of, I don't know what the optimal path to go to is, but definitely I think like there's advantages and disadvantages. You're gonna, if you radically change your game, you'll get new people, but then like the scene will change drastically. Like Street Fighter 4 to 5, I'm sure obviously Street Fighter 3 to 4 and 2 to 3, they're just like, the games are so different that like if you had a community, oftentimes what will happen is that community will slowly disappear. You won't see those people anymore, and then you'll see a bunch of new people. And if you stuck around, then you'll see that shift, right? So, so there is a large aspect to that. And I know Tekken has that too. I know some people didn't like Tag 2, or you know they didn't like a certain game, and you see people like going in and out, like playing these games or not. But I guess the hope is that a game can really, you know, be kind of fresh and unifying at the same time. But obviously, that's easier said than done, right? So
it's hard to like sometimes pinpoint what it is about a game, like the X factor of a game that really draws you in and really has that spark. Like, who would have thought Melee? The game's been out forever, and
that was a game that was really made for kids. It was basically like a Mario Party kind of game.
They still, if it was an Evo or whatever, like it would still be one of the games with the highest player numbers. It's a huge game. They Genesis top 8 for Melee gets like 200,000 plus viewers. It's massive, right? So, and nobody would have predicted that at the time. Like, it's hard to really pinpoint what it is about that game. So I think it's hard for developers to replicate it sometimes.
Oh, so, yeah, definitely. I think the what people like about the game is often unintended, and that's kind of like that concept of I think it's called emergent gameplay, where the gameplay, like when people play it, they figure out the stuff about the game that people didn't intend, developers didn't intend, and that is like so cool, right? Obviously, like Fly Unfly and Marvel, you know, it's like they probably didn't expect Sentinel to be like the way he is when they were making the game, right? But that's now like a staple of, you know, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, right? So I think every game kind of has that to a certain level, and there's kind of this battle because like developers don't want people to play the game in a way that it wasn't intended, right?
Yeah, there is sort of a I don't even know the term for this, like a divine intentions as far as the creator goes. Like, this is how I envisioned the game to be played, and now you're doing some weird shit with it, and this is not what we wanted. This was never the way it was supposed to be. I think this is common in a lot of different
that's like
games.
I think even in art in general, I forget we learned about that, like the death of the author. That's like a debate, right? Like when the author writes something and releases it, can they control how people understand it, or once people interpret it and understand it how they want, does the author have any say over what that is? And I think about that with games a lot, for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's got to be a weird time to be a publisher, where you make a game and then a whole crew of people from somewhere in the world you might not be familiar with. I mean, this is the StarCraft story. It was a bunch of guys in LA made a game, and out of fucking nowhere in Korea, they were running tournaments and putting it on TV without Blizzard's permission, making leagues, and it was, you know, and I think that's something developers are going to be wrestling with. Guys, by the way, it's getting a little bit late. So we've been going, this might be one of my longest ones yet. We've been on for almost 2 hours.
Well, Gerald just never shuts up. So.
This was fucking awesome, by the way. Can we do this again sometime?
Yeah,
anytime.
The three of us?
Yeah.
This was cool.
Yeah, it was weird. Usually I'm behind the camera, like, getting drinks and
Were you nervous at all at the start?
No, not at all. I mean, it's just talking with, like I said,
there was a little bit where I was trying to hold back the smile while you were talking, because I wanted to start making fun of you, because you're kind of like rambling a little bit, and then I'm like, stop. No, this is fucking awesome, though. This is great, man.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I mean, this is just like one of our, you know, whenever we go grab a drink or whatever, we just talk like this anyway. So
this is a usual kind of night of conversation for us. When can people, assuming that the virus is done, when can people be coming down here? What are the nights to hang out in Korea?
Initially it'll be Friday, Saturdays, and then eventually Sundays we'll start doing tournaments again. We want to have a different kind of highlight Sundays for a different game every week, whether it's Tekken, Street Fighter, anime games, Smash, and then Friday, Saturdays are going to be like fight nights. You can come play and hang out, try every game. We have a bunch of different fight sticks and stuff people can try and use, and it's a warm, welcoming place. The community here is really friendly. Good mix of obviously mostly Koreans because we're in Korea, but there are quite a few English speakers here as well. So and then if we ever get through this, I think obviously we will, but who knows when, we'll expand to other nights, Thursdays, and weeknight events too. So and you can Gerald's always streaming, but we also stream our events, the English side of those events, on Gerald's channel. So if you are from abroad and you want to check out our events in English, they're going to be on the Corey Gaming channel.
Yeah, and I'll commentate whatever game that I'm comfortable commentating. So I'll be on there as well.
And any game we absolutely can't find an English commentator for.
Yeah,
I'll be
basically. Yeah. Oh man, that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
All right, guys, thanks for doing this. Let's do it again soon, all right?
Yeah.
Let's go to the after show now. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode of the podcast. That was a lot of fun for me to shoot. It was also a little bit tricky because I know those guys so well, and I was trying to have a more formal interview format. But it was cool. I hope you guys continue to check out the podcast. I know I've been enjoying doing this. I don't feel like there's a lot of content out there that's face-to-face, I guess especially not with coronavirus, but in general, a lot of face-to-face real talks about gaming and esports. And so we're going to be back in probably 2 to 3 weeks. Scheduling's been a little bit crazy here, trying to get stuff booked. We're in almost full-on level 3 lockdown here. We've had another outbreak of coronavirus, as you guys heard in the podcast. So we're going to keep trying to crank this thing out as efficiently as we can. Again, thank you guys so much for joining the podcast. If you want to support us on Patreon, a reminder, you do get content, or you do get access to the after show. That's additional content for you. If we get to 1.5K, we are going to add in a third camera, and we're going to keep trying to build and improve the show and make this the best show about esports and gaming that we can make it. I love you guys. Stay safe. The world's fucking crazy, but eventually things have to get better. I think, right? Of course. Anyways, guys, I'll see you on GSL and ASL. Be sure to check out my stream at Tasteless TV. I love you. Goodbye. This podcast was produced by State. Artwork by Alarise. Music by Mark Lentz. Special thanks to our top Patreon supporters, Seth Rohit Sambadi and Charlie Sheever. Bye-bye.
Production is really
Called
good.
it
They
Fight
interview
Games?
legit people, but then they have like the classic narrator, like the 90s movie narrator. It's like, and but he says fight games in it, and then later as I was watching it, he actually says, and then e-gaming started.
Oh,
he
no!
says it, and I thought I almost called you right then. It was like 1 a.m, but it was like
He actually said e-gaming?
e-gaming, and then
Yeah.
it shows a guy like this, and then behind him there's like a stage.
Yeah,
He's doing
yeah.
the pose.